October 28, 1943. The darkest, most desperate days of World War II are unfolding. The Atlantic Ocean is heavily patrolled by deadly Nazi U-boats, ruthlessly hunting down Allied supply ships. The United States is losing vessels faster than it can launch them, and to turn the tide, the military desperately needs an advantage, something so revolutionary it borders on the supernatural. At this exact moment, anchored in the cold, foggy waters of the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, a brand new 1,240-ton destroyer escort, the USS Eldridge is about to become the epicenter of the most terrifying, controversial, and mind-boggling military experiment in human history. On the deck of the ship, massive, humming generators are powered up. Within seconds, the air around the vessel begins to ionize, and an eerie, glowing green fog rises, swallowing the entire ship. And then, before the horrified eyes of hundreds of sailors watching from the decks of nearby vessels, the thousands of tons of steel do not just disappear from enemy radar, they literally vanish from the physical dimension. For several minutes, the ship ceases to exist in our known plane of reality. But when the ship returns, the real nightmare has just begun. The search and rescue teams that board the vessel are met with a scene that defies human comprehension. Some crew members are convulsing in fits of madness, screaming uncontrollably. But the most blood-curdling sight of all is that several sailors have been fused at the molecular level with the steel hull of the ship. Human flesh and cold steel are merged. Arms and legs protrude from the armor plating, men buried alive in solid metal. This is not the plot of a cheap Hollywood science fiction movie. This is the dark, classified truth behind Project Rainbow, universally known as the Philadelphia experiment. But what drove the American military to attempt such a dangerous experiment, one that played God with the laws of nature? In 1943, invisibility was not just a fantasy. It was the ultimate key to winning the war and saving thousands of soldiers' lives. The Navy sought a technology that could hide ships not only from radar but from the human eye. Allegedly, this top-secret project was built upon the genius of Albert Einstein's unified field theory. Einstein was trying to prove that the forces of gravity and electromagnetism were actually two sides of the same coin. According to the theory, if a powerful enough electromagnetic field could be generated, it could bend not only radio waves but light itself. Light would wrap around the ship like a mirage, rendering it completely invisible. It is even said that the legendary inventor Nikola Tesla was among the architects of the project just before his death, and that the famous mathematician John von Neumann later took over. The fact that the FBI seized all of Tesla's notes from his hotel room following his suspicious death in early 1943 only fueled these conspiracy theories. But what they failed to account for was the Pandora's box they were opening by tampering with the laws of nature. They didn't just bend light, they tore a hole in the fabric of space and time. The USS Eldridge didn't just become invisible, it effectively crossed into another dimension. Was this event a massive fabrication born from the stress of World War II, or is it a terrifying reality that surpassed the limits of modern science and was subsequently covered up? Leave your thoughts, theories, and questions in the comments below. I will be reading every single one. If you enjoyed this dark and immersive journey through history, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel so the algorithms can connect us with more curious minds, and turn on the notification bell. Until our next deep investigation and mystery, stay curious, and goodbye. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished and returned to its berth in the Philadelphia shipyard. The ship had, knowingly or unknowingly, traveled through a wormhole, bending space-time to teleport. However, the human body and mind were not evolved to endure such an interdimensional journey. The condition of the returning crew was beyond description. Some sailors experienced a phenomenon called the freeze. They would suddenly lock up as if hitting an invisible wall, remaining motionless for hours, only returning to normal when other sailors touched them to ground the electricity in their bodies. Even more terrifying, it was reported that some surviving sailors would spontaneously become invisible and disappear months after the event. There were stories of men suddenly vanishing into thin air during bar fights, never to be seen again. The screams of the men fused with the steel were horrifying enough to haunt the dreams of every scientist involved in the project. So, how was such a massive and horrific event kept hidden for years? Immediately following the disaster, the project was indefinitely and completely cancelled. The surviving sailors were subjected to special brainwashing techniques. Many were locked away in mental institutions or quietly discharged for medical reasons. A massive cover-up operation was launched. The story remained in the dark until 1955, when a mysterious sailor named Carl Allen, also known as Carlos Allende, wrote a series of bizarre letters to Morris K. Jessup, a UFO researcher and astrophysicist. Allende claimed to have served on a merchant ship, the SS Andrew Furuseth, which was in the Philadelphia harbor in 1943, and that he had witnessed the disappearance of the Eldridge, the green fog, and the fusion of the sailors with the steel with his own eyes. The letters contained highly detailed physics and military information. Furthermore, the Office of Naval Intelligence only became extraordinarily interested in these letters and the book Jessup had written. They even printed a special annotated version of the book for internal study. If this was just the rambling of a madman, why was the US Naval Intelligence taking it so seriously? The mystery grew even darker in 1959 when Morris K. Jessup was found dead inside his car in a park in Florida. According to official records, Jessup had committed suicide by attaching a hose to his car's exhaust. However, his close friends and family insisted that he was not in a suicidal state of mind. On the contrary, they claimed he had uncovered major evidence regarding the Philadelphia experiment and was about to go public with it. Had Jessup gotten too close to a truth the government wanted to keep buried? Was he silenced? Today, the US Navy categorically denies that the Philadelphia experiment ever took place. According to official statements, the USS Eldridge was on a routine shakedown cruise in the Bahamas at the time. The Navy claims the invisibility legend stemmed from a routine procedure called degaussing, which neutralized a ship's magnetic field to protect it from magnetic mines. This process made the ship invisible to magnetic torpedoes, not the human eye. The green fog is explained away as St. Elmo's fire, a natural weather phenomenon often seen at sea during high-voltage electrical procedures. The story of men going mad and fusing with steel is dismissed as nothing more than an exaggerated urban legend concocted by drunken sailors in port bars. Yet, logical explanations are not enough to dispel the clouds of doubt. For nearly 80 years, this story has been passed down from generation to generation, inspiring books and movies. One cannot help but wonder if the American military managed to bend space and time and teleport a ship using the relatively primitive computer and technological infrastructure of 1943. Where is the data from that experiment being used today? Could this technology, shelved because the human cost was too high, be undergoing testing right now behind closed doors, in underground bases, with the aid of modern science? Is someone, somewhere in the world right now, walking around in an invisibility cloak, or teleporting to another location at the quantum level? The USS Eldridge and its unfortunate crew took their place in the dark pages of history as the most brutal victims of scientific hubris and wartime ambition.